And he said, I can tell you what to do, but you're not going to do it. And he told me about the carnivore diet. And I said, yeah, I can do that. I love beef. That's not a problem. The blockage was about cut in half. All my numbers were good. So I just kept on keeping on. And this past May, I went back again for another screening and some tests, and it's completely unblocked. In fact, the technician was shocked that I ever had any blockages in my carotid arteries. Eating too much fat is going to wreck you. And it seems like the more fat I eat from meat, the healthier I feel. I don't have the brain fog I once had. I'm just healthier all the way around, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And that surprised me.
Welcome. We've got Mollie is going to share her success story with us today. Mollie, welcome. How are you today?
Thanks. Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Where are you located, if you don't mind sharing?
I am located in Pontotoc, Mississippi, which is between Oxford, Mississippi, where the University of Mississippi is, and Tupelo, the birthplace of Elvis.
Yeah, I've heard of Tupelo for sure. And I lived in Biloxi when I was a little bitty baby. I know how long you been in Mississippi? You been there most of your life?
Most of my life, we lived different places, and we were in Louisiana for a bit, but most of the time here.
Okay, because I was in Biloxi. There was a hurricane called Hurricane Camille that went through in like 68 or 69, and I was in that one, and we didn't evacuate.
I remember that one. It was pretty rough.
Yeah, my dad was.
We had a lot of flooding in this area from it.
Gotcha. I guess we'll get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? And I know you had some issues with heart disease and stuff like that, I believe, but go ahead and just give us a little bit of your background.
All right. Well, let's say my husband and I have been married for 47 years now, and we have 3 children. I'm a retired chemistry teacher. He is a retired construction welder. We live on a farm. It's a generational farm that was passed down from his mother's family. We have about 70 acres. We have 2 sons that live here in Pontotoc, and we have a daughter who married a fella from West Virginia, and she lives up there. I have grandchildren in Vancouver, Washington as well.
Okay. I'm not far from Vancouver. I'm in Washington State right now as well, so not too far from Vancouver. And so I guess let's just start with maybe at some point you had heart problems, but what led up to that? Or what do you think what led up to that?
I have a huge family history of heart problems. Mom and Dad both suffered and had several operations. Dad had a valve replacement pretty young. I had a brother who began having heart issues in his 40s, and he ended up with 13 stents in his heart before he passed. So I started paying attention when I was pretty young, about 40, and started the 81 milligrams. I tried to be as healthy as I could be. A few years ago, though, I had to have several surgeries back to back. A foot surgery, then I had a Cameron's lesion from a hiatal hernia, and then had a real bad gallbladder attack. And those 3 surgeries just laid me down. It was at the end of my teaching career, and so I just made the best of it that I could. And I started, I'm going to say about 10 years ago, the teacher's insurance that I belong to recommended that we start what's called lifeline screening. And so I started doing that and have kept it up through the years. I had gained quite a bit of weight before I retired. And then after I retired, I had also been taking prescription antidepressants, which I think about 75% of public school teachers take, just to stay on their feet. But anyway, that had really wrecked my digestive system. And I started losing more after I retired. I got a little bit more active and began to lose some weight. But I would say that my eating habits were better. They weren't what they needed to be, and I didn't realize it at the time. In December of 21, I went to the Lifeline screening and had some tests done, And there was about a 50% blockage in my left carotid. And of course, they and my doctors recommended that I have surgery. And I'm like, no, I'm not having surgery. I don't want it. So my oldest son is a bodybuilder. He's very health conscious. He's the one who introduced me to you. And I was upset, crying, trying to figure out what to do, that kind of stuff. And he said, I can tell you what to do, but you're not going to do it. And he told me about the carnivore diet. So in December of 21 was when I began. I said, yeah, I can do that. I love beef. That's not a problem. I started on that. And in May of 22, I went back and had some more tests in the lifeline screening. And the blockage was about cut in half. All my numbers were good. And so I just kept on keeping on. I started exercising, going to the gym almost every day, and just being conscious of what I needed to eat and what I needed to do. And then in this past May, I went back again for another screening and some tests, and it's completely unblocked. In fact, the technician was shocked that I ever had any blockages in my carotid arteries. And my numbers at this point with the cholesterol are normal. Everything's normal. And so that's where I am. I'm feeling good. I actually have times that I feel really young. And I'm 65 years old.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, so from 50% occluded, blocked, to basically zero in 2 years' time. And your diet during that time was, what were you eating?
For 90 days, I did the beef, bacon, eggs, and butter.
Okay.
And then after that, I slowly started adding more things. But I basically eat beef. I love beef. I don't have a problem with it. I don't eat a lot of pork. Pork fat doesn't make me happy. And I'm not going to tell you a story. I love sweets, and every once in a while I might in fact, I indulged a little bit during the 4th of July with a little cake and that kind of stuff. But I can eat avocados and oranges, but I don't eat a lot of those.
Yeah, I like sweets too. That's just the way it is. If I'm going to cheat, it's going to be with like that. It's not going to be with broccoli.
Exactly.
I can tell you that. So over these 2 years since you said 2021, you initiated this carnivore diet, what other things occurred to you outside of the blockage being improved? Any other health benefits?
My energy level has gone through the roof. I feel like that I had a lot of sinus problems. That's cleared up a good bit. We're active in the horse world. We have a granddaughter that shows Tennessee walking horses, and we have friends that rodeo. And the only time I really have any problems anymore with sinuses is if I go into a covered, dusty arena and breathe that dirt. But I think that's pretty normal for everybody. Stomach problems. I mean, after the gallbladder surgery and the hiatal hernia surgery, I had to stay close to a bathroom. It's not that way anymore. And so the energy level is definitely improved. My husband is having a hard time keeping up with me.
Now, has he shifted his diet as well, or is he not interested in doing that?
He has shifted it to a degree. He probably eats more meat than he used to. He can still eat pork and whatnot, but he's always been a great junk food junkie. And he likes the hot dogs and that kind of stuff. And he still eats some of that, but he is eating healthier than he used to.
So you said you had a lifeline screening test. And so was it an ultrasound of your neck? Was that, I guess that was probably what they did. They smear some gel?
It was.
And they did, and it was done at the same place all 3 times. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And was there a physician who ordered that test? Was it just you guys do it on your own, or was there somebody that ordered it?
Nobody does. When you start doing that, like I told you when I was still teaching, my insurance recommended those kind of things for us to keep on top of our health. So I started that 10, maybe 15 years ago. And then I had picked it up again, and they do just all over your body, your arteries, just all kinds of tests. And, I've got them here, but that's the main one that has improved a lot. It is not paid for by insurance, but it's not very expensive. And if there shows anything thing that's pretty bad, they ask for your doctor's name and they will report that to the doctor.
Okay. So
I did go to the clinic recently, and it was before May. It was back, I don't know, maybe last fall. And they took my cholesterol, and I was not happy with it. I was like, look, I've had these numbers done. I just can't see it being all out of whack like this. And they were like, you've got to get on some medicine for your cholesterol and all this. I'm like, no, I sure don't. And so I just kept on keeping on, and I've had those numbers rerun, and they're fine.
okay, so when you first had this test done and it showed the blockage, the 50% blockage, a physician was contacted, and he or she recommended that you have surgery on your neck. It's simply called a carotid endarterectomy is the name of that procedure, where they just basically open it up and scrape out all the plaque in there. And so you declined that. At that time, was your cholesterol elevated at that time?
Oh, it was about 298.
It was about what? 298?
298.
So total cholesterol almost 300, which is, most people consider that high. And then you said eventually it went back down to a more normal number. Is that what happened?
Yes. Last year when I had it done, it was 240 something. And this past time in May was 180.
Okay. So still slightly elevated compared to what most people like 190. So you're back into that considered normal range. What about things like blood pressure and those types of things, or any other lab?
My blood pressure was high.
Mm-hmm.
I had always run a steady 100/70 all my life. And it started eventually climbing a little bit and got up into the 130s. Maybe I take it every once in a while. It was 140 over 110 or 120. And as I did this, it's eventually gone back down, and it's around 100/70 again.
Okay. So what do you think happened that made you drive your blood pressure up, gain the weight, develop the plaque in your neck? Was there something that changed that was out of the normal a few years ago?
I think it has a lot to do with just life and stress and not making time to make sure you're healthy. In my case, it was those 3 operations that I had in a year and a half that just knocked my energy level down.
Yeah.
And I think I just let it get out of control.
And you said you basically still eat lots of meat, more or less carnivore. Occasionally you add a few things in there. You don't have a gallbladder, and a lot of people will be concerned that I can't do a carnivore diet without a gallbladder. How's that been going for you? Been able to do okay with that?
Just fine. I take a ox bile or bile salt capsule maybe every other day, and I don't have a problem with it, unless I just decide to eat something out of the ordinary that I shouldn't, that's high in sugar, and I don't do that often.
And
ice cream is really hard for me to pass up.
Yeah, ice cream's good for sure.
But we live on a farm, and we've got a Jersey. We've had milk goats, and we raise chickens. We've got raw milk, and we raise beef. So we've got that beef to eat.
So you got beef, you got raw milk, you got chicken eggs. That's pretty good.
Yes, we've had those things for years. In fact, that's the way we raised our children.
Yeah.
And they're all very healthy.
Yeah, you said your one son's actually doing bodybuilding or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay, and
he and his wife both are bodybuilders.
And are they doing carnivore diets or something similar?
They pretty much stick to carnivore. They do eat tomatoes and peas, those kind of fresh vegetables that come out of the garden.
Okay. And since you've been doing this meat-heavy approach or carnivore approach, has there been any negatives that have occurred to you?
Not really, unless it will be that we're somewhere or socially or at someone's home or whatever, and they offer me something that I'm not going to eat, and they're like I'm a carnivore. I've had some people look at me like I'm growing horns. Just what?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Well, and have you had?
That's really the only negative that I can think.
So basically,
if I didn't like beef, I'm sure I'd have a problem. I've tried other things. I don't like lamb. I don't like organ meats. And so therefore I use the supplements, the dried organ meats.
Okay.
and take those.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of organ meats personally that I never liked. I don't take the supplements just for, I don't feel that they're necessary. But regardless, that's pretty impressive that you were able to clear that blockage up there. Did any physician notice that the blockage went down? You mentioned the ultrasound tech, but
no, because the clinic that I go to has a family practitioner. That's who takes care of the patients. And of course, they have a doctor that oversees them. But when I told them I wasn't taking any kind of cholesterol medication, I don't know if they reported it to the doctor or not, but no, I've never had anybody to say anything about it. I really never talked to a doctor about it, to be honest with you about it.
Yeah, it might be interesting at some point when you get a chance to do that, and just because see what their thoughts would, because we typically don't see a lot of, reversal of disease most of the time. And this is something that's, I think, quite interesting. Are you on any medications, or were you on medications that you were able to come off of?
I am not on any prescription medications.
Well,
my husband is not, and I'm not. Now, I take supplements. I take some magnesium. I drink salt lemon water every morning. I take a little melatonin to help myself sleep at night. That's about it. Now, I used to be on antidepressants heavily. And like I said, they really disrupted my digestive system, and I knew I had to get off of those. And when I did, back when I retired 5 years ago now, it was like, bam, I could think again.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it seems like 3/4 of the teachers were on antidepressants. Is that, why do you think that is? Why is it just so many people are just not happy with teaching, or what do you think's going on?
Oh, the public school system's just a rough world to work in nowadays, with all the requirements from the state, from the local, and then of course it's not the kids so much, just the parents that are just so controlling, and I understand that. They want to make sure their kids are getting what they need, but just a lot of pressure.
Yeah, fair enough. Speaking of the kids, how long were you teaching for? How many years did you teach for?
I taught 25 years.
For 25 years. So I'm sure you would have seen a change in maybe the kids' health over time, maybe their mental health.
Oh, definitely.
What have you seen over the last 25, 30 years since you were teaching?
First of all, there was a big change in teaching about how they wanted us to teach. It went from hands-on, teaching kids what they needed, to the Common Core crap. And when they introduced that, I was like, this is not going to work. This is going to be a debacle. But anyway, so I basically just did the best I could. But with kids and their health, of course, kids have basically become more sedentary. I've noticed that young men tend to play video games a lot, put on a lot of weight. Their parents don't encourage them to get out and work and play, and it's just not good for their health.
Yeah, fair enough. And obviously, I'm sure the quality of the food in the school system is probably not ideal. I would imagine lots of processed stuff.
It went from home cooking during my career to just fast food, basically.
Yeah. So you got kids that are sedentary, poorly nourished, and it's not very good. It's not a very good health environment for learning, I would imagine. And as far as you'd mentioned, the antidepressants that kind of wrecked your digestion, and then you had to have all these, the cholecystectomy, the gallbladder removal, and I can't remember what were the other surgeries you had? Remind me again.
I had a hiatal hernia that actually became a Cameron's lesion. I was bleeding internally and had to have 2 blood transfusions before they figured out what was wrong with me.
Okay. And those symptoms from that, the hiatal hernia, sometimes they'll do a repair to the diaphragm and push it back under. And is that pretty much resolved for you now? Does the diet seem to help that as well?
Yes, it has. It is resolved.
That's good for you. And then how much do you eat on a daily basis? Just out of curiosity, for how many meals are you having? How often do you eat? When do you eat?
I usually eat 2 meals a day. I'm satisfied I don't get hungry a lot. Every once in a while I will, and I'll just add a little third meal in there. I usually get up about 6:30 or 7 and go to the gym, and maybe I don't eat until between 10 and 12. I'll have a nice hamburger, patty, or maybe some eggs with that, and I'm satisfied. And then I may eat again about 4 or 5 o'clock, and I try not to eat after 6. I like ribeyes, I like T-bones, I like New York strips. I'm pretty conventional on all that, and that's what I eat.
Yeah, fair. Well, it sounds good. What I eat, I like the same things too. It's interesting. Just enough fat. Have to have enough fat in there to get some flavoring in there, and then of course with energy. Do you find
my husband's a good cook as well, and he likes to smoke. He will smoke Boston butts for him and the rest of the family, and he always gets brisket for me, and I love that. That's a treat for me.
Yeah, smoked brisket is one. I'll put one up every couple months. I'll go out there and smoke a brisket because it's quite a project. You know, it's a big old brisket.
Yes,
You're looking at 16 hours of work typically, or 10 in it anyway. But how about, you said socially, do you have a lot of friends that you hang out with still that maybe you're like, what the heck are you doing with your diet, and thinking you're questioning you, or?
Yes. They just think I'm crazy. And I've got one girlfriend that's been a huge vegetarian for years. And she decided to start eating meat, and it's a problem for her. She'll go back and forth and back and forth. And she has gained some weight because she was really skinny. And she's about the only one that pays attention. The rest of them are just like, whatever.
Yeah, just head down eating their processed food perhaps, and
That's right.
and worrying about other things, and maybe complaining about how their health is perhaps. I don't know.
Yes. I have become pretty famous around here. I bake sourdough bread and sell it at the farmer's market. And I don't eat a lot of it, but for people who want to eat bread, to me, it's the healthier choice because the fermentation breaks down the gluten in the flour.
Yeah, there's people that are advocates of sourdough. I know a friend of mine, Bill Schindler, he does bread like that, and some people do seem to tolerate it a little bit better. Has there been anything that's really surprised you since your son said, "Hey, I know what to do for you," and you actually did? Was there anything that was surprising to you?
That it worked.
That it worked. Okay. How about?
And we've always been taught that eating too much fat is gonna wreck you. And it seems like the more fat I eat from meat, the healthier I feel. I don't have the brain fog I once had. I'm just healthier all the way around, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And that surprised me.
Yeah.
I listen to you a lot. I listen to Dr. Berry. I listen to Dr. Burke some, and get a lot of encouragement from you.
Yeah, obviously you feel better, which is great. That's wonderful, and it's good to hear. And then were you surprised to see that your carotid artery reversed itself?
I was, and excited about it. Very happy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I did not ever want to have to go back under the knife again.
Yeah.
If I do, it'll probably be a life and death situation. I'm stronger now. I've started riding horses again. We're even shopping for me a horse. We have some. I told you my granddaughter shows horses, but they're Tennessee walking horses, and that's not what I like. I like a good old quarter horse. And I'm looking forward to finding one and starting to ride again.
Oh, good for you. That sounds like a lot of fun. Do you, as far as over the years, because you said you gained some weight over the years, had you ever tried like different dietary approaches like low fat or counting calories or even more plant-based? Did you ever try those things over the years before you tried this?
Yes, I've tried some things like the medications along the way. Those never worked for me. They made me nervous and just gave me brain fog real bad. I have tried eating salads, that kind of stuff. But when I went down that road, I didn't get satisfied. I just was hungry all the time. I'm sure there's other things I've tried. I remember dabbling in Atkins and dabbling in keto, but I pretty much, I've never been one to just let my health go as far as eating. I was raised on a farm and we ate healthy, but like you said, sweets is my downfall. And if I can stay away from that, but I've found out since I've been eating carnivore that and not eating sugar that my tastes have changed. And if I do taste something sweet, it's so sweet I can't stand it. It's like it takes me aback, the sweetness.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I can relate to that because there used to be desserts that I would like, but they were so sweet other people couldn't eat them, and I'd eat the whole pie. I'm just like, and then like a piece of fruit would seem boring to you because it doesn't have as much sugar in it. You didn't have that high sugar content. And then as like you said, your taste buds change, now just a little something that's even mildly sweet tastes quite sweet, and probably how it was designed to be as an occasional dessert type of thing, and not like we put sugar in every darn food there is these days, and everything's got sugar in it. So you're always getting that background amount of sugar all the time, all day long. What about expense of this diet versus other diets? Do you find it to be, I know you have a lot of stuff at home, so it might make it easier, but do you find it to be particularly expensive?
No, I don't buy the amount of groceries that I once did, even though the meat may be more expensive than most things. But when you just buy beef and butter, I don't have to buy eggs. It's so easy because I have a short list. Cooking is easy. Meal planning is easy. And instead of life being about eating, it becomes about living. And that's a good thing.
That's a great point, because some people say life isn't fun if you can't eat all these thousands of different foods out there. But then a counter to that would be if the major source of your joy and inspiration is how many different colored foods you can eat, maybe you need some more of an exciting life. But so now that you're retired, I guess you got your schedule that you can do what you want. Maybe, I don't know. Sometimes retirement gets more busy than working sometimes, depending on what you're up to. But do you find that, let me ask you about your eating schedule, because you mentioned you go to the gym in the morning. Do you tend to eat, a lot of people I found tend to do better not eating real late at night, but it varies from person to person. What does your eating schedule look like?
I usually eat my first meal between 10 and 12 in the morning. I try to push it as close to 12 as I can and have an eating window from 12 to 6. Sometimes I don't make that depending on the day before. I'm just hungry, so I'm going to go ahead and eat at 10:30 instead. But those two meals, and I try to eat between 5 and 6 in the evening. And that's it.
Yeah, it's similar to me. That works pretty well, I think, for a lot of people, for those people that have the luxury of being able to eat when you want to eat, because sometimes work doesn't allow it for a lot of people, but that seems to help.
Exactly.
Yeah. And do you what about salt on your food? Do you put salt on your food, or how do you deal with that?
I do. I make sure that I have salt once a day. I drink warm water, lemon, and about a half teaspoon of salt every day in the morning to begin my day with a cup of coffee. And that's another little struggle I have is with coffee. I've always drank coffee with my cream and had a lot of sweetener or sugar in it. And I'm slowly weaning myself off of that. I don't put any added sugar or stevia or anything like that in my coffee anymore. I still use a non-sugar powdered creamer, or I use half and half in my coffee. And I found a brand of flavoring that's called skinny syrups, and may not be real good, but it helps me. And my goal is to be able to just drink coffee. I like that 1 cup every morning.
Okay, fair enough. And you mentioned several things got better for you. How about the way your body feels? Like, did you have any aches and pains and things like that get better with this? Did you notice any of that?
Yes, things have gotten better. If I sit down for a long time and don't get up, I'm going to be stiff. Especially if at the end of the day when I'm tired or I've been real busy, something like that. If I travel and I'm sitting in a car, I get a little stiff. But I think that's due to age.
And speaking of,
it's getting better.
Yeah. Well, good for
all the time.
It's good to hear. Speaking of age, what was your outlook on, say, the retirement years, the rest of your life 3 years ago versus today? Has it changed your outlook any?
Yes, definitely. We're traveling more. We're enjoying things more. My husband has lost about 20 pounds, and he's 2 years older than I am, and he's still active. He's active on the farm. He mows, cuts hay. He still does a few welding jobs here and there for friends, that kind of thing. And we have children we try to keep up with. Our children are in their 40s now, and then our grandchildren are basically from 21 down to 7.
Yes, there's a lot of folks.
We try to keep up with them. That's hard to do, but it's fun to try.
But I'm assuming it's easier now since you've switched your diet than it would have been 3 years ago, correct?
Yes, it is. Definitely.
So
I do get tired. I just don't wear out as fast. And I attribute that to my exercise schedule as well.
Yeah, certainly exercise is a huge, I think one of the biggest things that separates people that sort of age than those that don't is exercise. And sometimes if your diet is wrong, you're unable to because you hurt too much. And when you fix your diet out, you feel better and then you're able to do that. So it allows you to do that. I think you said you're what, 65 or close to that. And have you noticed yourself being able to get stronger even at 65?
Oh, definitely. My daughter-in-law, who's the bodybuilder, she's like my coach. She's an encourager, and she helps me, and we change up my routine from time to time. I've been here lately. I've been trying a little intense training, and it's helped me see that I'm stronger than I thought I was. But it'll wear me out pretty quickly, though.
Is your son the one that suggested you do this diet? Is he in Mississippi near you, or they live somewhere remote?
He is. In fact, he lives with us. He was in supervision in welding construction. And during the pandemic, the company that he worked for wanted him to take the job, and he said no. So he was fired. And the company he was in Wyoming, and the company there that had contracted the company he was fired from picked him up because they did not think that they were going to require it. And 3 months in, I believe, they did require it. And he went to them, thanked them for the job. I'm not taking it. And that was, of course, when bodybuilders were dropping dead from that. And so he came home and he thought he would go back on his tools and work through it, but it didn't work out. He did work, but then he picked up a sideline of making knives, and he's covered up making hand forging knives. And it's been a good business for him, and he's enjoying it. Well, and he gets to work out more too.
Good for him. I guess it worked out in the end for him. So good for him.
But anyway, they're here on the farm. Of course, this is a family farm. Our other son lives near as well. And so he's got a plan. We'll see what happens.
Okay. So good for you I'm just wondering, what does your son think about the fact that you actually did it? Was he surprised that you were able to do it?
Probably. He picks at me about it. I think he's proud of me. And he's glad that I'm healthy again.
Yeah, I can't imagine not being happy to see this. You see your mom has gotten from going sick to healthy. Do you, like I said, you said exercise is important, getting good sleep's important, eating well is important. Any other habits you found that have been helpful for you? Being
mindful of blessings, I think. Whether that be nature, what I've been given, the love I have from the people that I love. Just to think about those things and be thankful for them, and just realizing how blessed I am every day. I'm a Christian, and I just think thankfulness is very important. Yeah. And I'm sad sometimes that many people in America don't realize how blessed we are here.
Yeah, I've had the fortune to travel quite a bit over the world, and I do see that we have a very We have a lot of things to be thankful for. There's some things we can do better, of course, like anybody. We're certainly, you're not living in a cave in Afghanistan or something like that where
Exactly.
a lot of people.
And we get to travel however we want to, whenever we want to. And that's a very big blessing. And I'm a nature person, so I have a lot of plants. I enjoy taking care of those. I enjoy my animals. Those are all important to me.
Yeah. I'm not sure how we got a hold of you. Are you on do you do a little bit of social media or do you just?
I do. I had joined the Rivero group and somebody just emailed me and after I joined and asked me, was I happy? Did I need any help getting around the site and that kind of stuff? And I answered them and gave them some feedback and they just pursued that.
Okay.
And then one day, it was a lady, I'd have to look at my phone for her name, but she pursued me and she said, well, would you be interested in talking to Dr. Baker? And I'm like, yes, of course I would.
I'm glad you did. It's been fun getting to know you and chat about this. And it's always neat to see because we're told eating a bunch of meat and things like that is going to clog our arteries. And the exact opposite happened to you. They unclogged your arteries, which is pretty interesting to see. Oh, are you gonna be doing another one of these life check tests again next year? Is that the plan?
I'm sure I will. Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Hopefully it remains clear. And how much do you remember, like your heaviest that you'd gained weight wise, and how much you've been able to lose?
At one point, I weighed 220.
Okay. And where are you at now?
That was when I was still working. And one of those surgeries that I talked about was a rebuild on my foot. Years ago at school, some kids had gotten in a fight behind me on a staircase. It was loud. We were changing classes, and I couldn't hear them, and they slammed into me. And when they slammed into me, I fell down the stairs. They stomped on my foot, and my ligaments and tendons and nerves were damaged in my foot. And at the time, the doctor didn't realize to what extent. It healed up as best it could. Time went on, I had a lot of trouble staying on that foot, and the doctors thought it was plantar fasciitis, and they started treating me for that. And that was about 20 years after it had actually happened. And my foot got worse. To a specialist for a nerve conduction test and realized that my nerves and ligaments and tendons needed to be rebuilt. And that is when I had gained so much weight because I had to stay off my foot. And I ended up having surgery on that foot. They rebuilt it and it's fine now. It took about 6 months for me to begin to get the feeling back. And then in a couple of years, I was fine. And that's doing great now.
Okay. And you were able to lose how much weight from that peak weight of 220?
After the surgery, I lost about 20 pounds. And then after I retired, I lost about 10 more pounds. And then when I started on the carnivore diet, I've lost 20 pounds.
Okay. So that's 50 pounds. So that's good for you. So we got to feel better not carrying that extra weight around. It's got to wear you out.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like she froze up a bit on me. Mollie, you still there? Hey, Mollie, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, you froze up a little bit there for us.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe your connection's a little weak, but I guess we've got a few minutes remaining. Is there anything you'd like to share that we didn't get to talk about?
Oh, let's see. No, I think we've covered basically all of it. I'm just happy I'm healthy, and I'm looking forward to the rest of my life.
Well,
and I appreciate what you've done in the Rivero community. I enjoy being a member of it.
Thank you for being part of the community, by the way. And thanks for sharing your story, Mollie. And good luck to you. And hopefully next year that scan will be good again. And keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much. And for the rest of the folks
who
tuned in, thanks you guys
for being here. Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Thanks, Mollie. Bye-bye, guys. Take care now.
Bye-bye.